Hello, I'm Luna, and this is another intro to yoga class. And this particular one is about backbending. And backbending is really, really wonderful in the practice. It reverses the hunch the body loves to do. It stretches the front body, the chest, the abs. And when you do stretch the front body, it provides for a deeper breath. So as you breathe deeper, you pour more life into the body, more energy. So they're very rejuvenating. And it also helps to strengthen the muscles along the spine. So it'll help you find better posture and more of a comfortable seat. So in today's practice, I would recommend having 2 blocks nearby. If you don't, that's fine. You could have something of the sort, like a rolled up blanket. And then maybe some sort of strap or something like that. Towel, scarf, something of the sort. And then we're just going to get started on these 2 blocks. And if you don't have 2 blocks, another option is to roll up a blanket so it turns into this kind of skinny roll, like I like to call it like a taquito. So it's this like kind of skinny roll situation, and you could bring it as this first block underneath your shoulder blades. So that's an option. I've got the 2 blocks happening. If you do have 2 blocks, you're going to have 1 block at its lowest height, lengthwise, straight back. The second block at its middle height, lengthwise from left and right. Then your hips are going to be on the ground, about, 5-6 inches away from the first block. You'll kind of have to shift around a little bit. And then we're going to lay down onto that first block, or this is right where your blanket is. Cool? Otherwise, you're on the block. And then the back of the head to the second block. And then you just want to really make sure that the first block or the blanket is right where your shoulder blades are. Nowhere lower than the shoulder blades. It's not like your neck, truly like your upper back, which is called your thoracic spine. And then option to straighten your legs in front of you. Option to also, especially if you have like a tender or sensitive low back, option to bend your knees, bring the soles of the feet to the floor, feet a little wider and knees touching. So this will just help you create some space in your low back. So in back bends in general, we really do want to feel the back bend more so into the upper back. So the low back is a very, very mobile and flexible. That's why sometimes people feel pretty achy in the low back because they do a lot of their movements from that place, or they're like, compressing the low back from sitting a lot. And also we tend to have sometimes some stress or tension in the upper back and in the shoulders because that hunch the body loves to do. So we're going to try to move the back bend more so into the upper back, and we're going to try to keep the low back long and safe, spacious. So this is already kind of starting. We're just kind of ingraining the sensation of the back bend here in your body, trying to lengthen the low back. And you can even lift your hips. Whatever you're doing with your legs is fine, but lift your hips. Lengthen your tailbone forward. So kind of you're curling your low back. You're lengthening your tailbone forward, and then you're lowering your hips back down. So, and you should feel like you've got more length in your low back, more space in your low back as you feel this nice back bend of the upper back happening. And then just close your eyes and just give yourself this first moment to take in the shape. Notice how it feels. Again, this is like the opposite position that our bodies love to hang out in, the hunching that the body loves to do. So just notice how it feels to be expanding your lungs like this, to be opening across your chest. Maybe feel a bit of a stretch kind of into the upper arms, your shoulder heads. And just be here for a couple more breaths. And actually, let's do tap into the breath. So think about inhaling a little bit deeper and exhaling a little bit more fully. And continue like that, inhaling low abdomen, low lungs, mid lungs, upper chest, pausing at the top, totally full. And then a big exhale from the upper chest to the side waist, back down towards the pit of the stomach. It's kind of like a wave with the breath. Inhaling low abdomen, low lungs, mid lungs, upper chest. Exhaling upper chest, side waist, all the way to the pit of the stomach. So continue like that, inhaling deeply. and exhaling fully throughout the whole practice. And you want to find a little restriction across the back of your throat. It's called our Ujjayi Breath. There's this little restriction across the back of the throat, kind of like you're fogging up a mirror. So you find this little soft whispering sound across the back of your throat. And it's okay if you forget about it, no worries. Just do come back to it when you recognize you've forgotten about it. And that really helps to kind of calm the nerves and the physical body so that we can find a little bit more space in the body. And it keeps the mind connected to the body, which is really the aim of our practice, staying present. Okay, so bend the knees if you haven't already done so. Roll over to your right. You can kind of use your right forearm and your right left hand to lift yourself off of the blocks or whatever you're on, the blanket, and then move whatever you're on to the side, and then roll onto your back. And then go ahead and grab a hold of one of those blocks, if you've got it, between your inner thighs. So lengthwise, forward and back, right between your inner thighs and higher up towards your hips versus lower down towards your knees. And then bend the knees and bring the soles of your feet to the floor. You want your feet hip distance apart. And then kind of walk your heels closer to your hips. And really hug the block between your inner thighs. The block is going to help us wake up our core muscles and the inseam of the legs. And it also makes sure that we don't allow the knees to splay wider than the hips or cave in closer than the hips. We want the knees in alignment with the sitting bones, which will help your low back stay spacious. So that's a big key of our back bends. Okay, so you're going to press your feet down. Oh, actually, let's have our arms on either side of us, palms facing one another. I get ahead of myself sometimes when I'm excited. Now, you're going to press down through your feet, roll your spine off of the floor at the same time, reach your fingertips up above your head to the back of the room. And then exhale, reverse that, roll the spine back down, reach your arms back down to your side body. And then you'll just continue like that. Inhale, rolls the spine up, take your time. Arms up. And then exhale, rolls down. Continue on like that at your own pace. Keep hugging the block between your inner thighs. Just notice that the body tends to roll to the outer foot here. Really try to ground just as much with the inner foot as you are with the outer foot. And then really observe the rolling up and the rolling down of your spine. We want to really find this individuality, this articulation of the vertebrae. So think about lifting like vertebra by vertebra up. I think of it like a pearl necklace, pearl by pearl up, and then roll vertebra by vertebra down to the floor. Especially your low back. Notice how it wants to just like plop to the floor. So continue rolling up and rolling down. And you should begin to feel a little bit of work in the legs. We're also trying to find a little bit of mobility in the arms and the shoulders. And definitely finding mobility and warming up the spine, the muscles along the spine. Cool. So you roll yourself down. Keep your hips grounded. Inhale. You might need to sneak your feet a little closer to your hips because I tend to push myself back. Maybe you do that too. Let's inhale, reach the arms above the head. And then exhale, just reach your arms forward and lift your shoulders and your head off of the floor. Gaze forward. Hug the block. Stay for your inhale. Exhale, reach forward more. Continue like that. Inhale, lower, reach your arms above your head. Exhale, reach your arms forward, lift your shoulders and your head. Stay for your inhale. Exhale, reach forward more. Couple more like that. We just need to wake up the core. Inhale, arms above your head. Exhale, reach your arms forward, lift your shoulders and your head. Stay for your inhale. Exhale, reach forward more. Two more like that. So we want to wake up the core muscles so that we can find support from the front body in order to move into the back bend safely. So there's always this kind of idea about balance in yoga, right? As we find space in the back body, we need to find support and strength in the front body. Last round. So core is quite important, actually, when you move into back bends. Okay, lower yourself down, move the block to the side, gently hug your knees into your chest, little rock from side to side. Little rock forward and back. And then roll yourself up into a seat. You could roll forward into it. You could also just roll to one side and lift yourself on up. And then let's move to the blocks towards the front of the mat. Also the strap if you've got it. And then we're going to meet in tabletop position. Just tossing up my hair real quick. And then, so tabletop position, you want to have your shoulders stacking right over your wrists and your knees hip distance apart. And you're spreading your fingers wide and really rooting your palms to the floor. Okay, so we're going to do kind of cat-cow that some of you might be familiar with, but doing it in segments. So we're first just going to explore the upper back. So try to keep your low back long. So we're reaching the tailbone away from the shoulder. So notice, even here, are you like kind of dumping into your low back and chilling out? Can you feel the low back get longer? The frontal hip bones moving to the ribs. So there's that little bit of core work happening. And then just little mini cat-cows in the upper back. So we're going to inhale right between your shoulder blades, melt that area to the floor, like right where that first block was. And then exhale, press the dome right between the shoulder blades. It lifts to the ceiling. And a couple more like that. Inhale, melts. Exhale, dome. So it's a quite small movement, right? We're just trying to wake up the upper back. Inhale, melts. Exhale, domes. Okay, and then inhale, try to find like a flat back. So between the two worlds, you're not melting, you're not doming, you're right kind of in between. Then now we're going to explore the low back. So inhale, just the low back. Lift your tailbone towards the ceiling. And then exhale, move your tailbone towards the floor. You're kind of rounding. And do that twice more. Inhale, tailbone up. Press down through your knuckle pads more so you're not chilling in your wrists. Exhale, tailbone down to the floor. So we're just waking up the low back. One more. Inhale, tailbone lifts up to the ceiling. So you're overly arching your low back. And then exhale, tailbone to the floor so you're doming and you're rounding in your low back. Okay, let's bring it all together. This time, inhale, pull your chest forward. Lift your tailbone up so you're arching your whole back body. And then exhale, rounding, chin to your chest, tailbone to the floor, doming your back body. Two more. Inhale, chest pulls forward and up, tailbone lifts up. Exhale, chin to your chest and round. Once more. Inhale, opening. Notice how the low back wants to take more movement. Try to get more of it in the upper back. Exhale, rounding. All right, move your feet together. Rest your hips onto your heels. Let your hands move back behind you with your palms facing up. We just want to give our wrists a moment to let go. That was a while on the wrists. Pause in Child's Pose. Noticing how you feel from that work. And then you'll reach your arms forward in space. Have your hands shoulder distance apart, maybe a little wider if you've got tighter, broader shoulders. Spread your fingers wide and have your pointer fingers pointing the front of the mat, like more straight forward. So the fingers are slightly opening to the side walls. Engage your arms. They're super straight and strong. Come on up halfway, tabletop position. Spiral your inner upper arms, your biceps up to the ceiling. That'll help you open your upper back more. As you exhale, tuck your toes, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. And then hang in down dog for a couple of breaths. And it might feel nice to bend your left knee and reach your right heel towards the floor, just saying hello to the hamstrings and the calf a little bit more. And then do the opposite, bend the right knee and move your left heel towards the floor. And then bend both of your knees a good amount so you can really press your palms down and lift your hips up and back and melt your chest to your legs. So feel, even here, can you feel a teeny little back bend of your upper back, especially for my stiff bodies? Can you push your shoulder blades towards your chest where that little back bend was earlier on the block? And then keeping the length of your spine, keeping your chest melting towards your legs. Maybe you can move your heels in the direction of the floor. A little bit of movement just to wake the body up. Inhale, lift the right leg up and back. Exhale, step the right foot where the right thumb is and tap your left knee down. And then inhale, slow motion, sweep your arms forward and up, low lunge. And then exhale, hands to the floor. Step your left foot forward, feet are hip distance, fold forward. Inhale, just come up halfway, lengthening your spine. Exhale, step your left foot way back, tap your left knee down. Inhale, sweep your arms forward and up. Exhale, lower your hands to the floor, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, lift your left leg up and back. Exhale, step your left foot where the left thumb is, tap the right knee down. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, hands to the floor. Step your right foot forward, forward folding. Inhale, just come up halfway, bend the knees a little bit so you can lengthen your spine. Exhale, step your right foot back, tap the right knee down. Inhale, reach your arms up, low lunge. Exhale, hands to the floor, step back, downward facing dog. Great. Now that we're a little warmer, inhale, right leg up and back. Exhale, step the right foot where the right thumb is, tap your left knee down. And then just bring your hands to your hip this time, your hips. And then come out of the generous bend of your front knee, and literally with your fingers to your frontal hip bones and your thumb towards your sacrum, that flat bone of the low back, you want to literally pull your frontal hip bones up and lengthen your tailbone down. So can you find more length in your low back and less of an arch in your low back, which is a big key, especially for super flexible bendy bodies. This is like a big key for you so that you are not collapsing in your lumbar spine, your low back. And I know from my own practice, I live in a pretty flexible bendy body. So lift the frontal hip bones up, reach your tailbone down, and then bend the front knee a little bit more so that the knee tracks over the ankle. So this is a great prep for moving into back bends, this pose, Anjaneyasana. It helps to open the front of the left thigh, the psoas, the hip flexor, and it really makes sure that you wake up that awareness of the tailbone lengthening down and the frontal hip bones lifting up. And then once you feel that work, reach your arms up. So we're back here again, but really systematically really working on what's going on in the pose. Pull your legs towards one another first and foremost. That'll give you more support and wake up your legs. And then continue lengthening your tailbone down. But as you lift your arms up, maybe you can find a little back bend in your upper back. So right between the shoulder blades, can you push your shoulder blades into your chest? Maybe you even lean back a little bit, but keep the low back long. You have one more inhale. And then exhale, release your hands to the floor. Nice work. Step your left foot forward with your feet hip distance apart. Bend the knees a good amount. This time we get to just chill out for a moment. Bending the knees a good amount. So maybe even your ribs rest onto your thighs and just hang heavy for a moment. So forward folds are the counter pose to back bends. We'll also be doing some forward folds just to even out the body. Yoga is all about balance, balancing out the body. And let's actually interlace the fingers behind the low back with the right thumb on top. But if that's too constricting to you, that's when the strap comes into play. You could grab hold of a strap or a towel between the hands as well. Totally cool. That's an option. But we are moving the hands away from the hips, rolling the shoulders away from the ears, and then leaning the weight towards the toes as you fold forward. And then breathing into this stretch. One more breath. All right, release your hands towards the floor. Bend your knees and come up halfway. Bring your fingertips onto your shins. Straighten your arms or palms. Either one is fine. But bend your knees enough that you can actually lengthen your spine. So no rounding, which happens a lot in the practice. You want to bend the knees to take the hamstrings out of the equation and then literally push your hands against your shins so you're lengthening your spine. Think about what we just did in down dog. Can you feel that little back bend of your upper back? But your low back is long. You're just feeling a little back bend of your upper back. And then exhale, lower yourself down. Good. That was our Ardha Uttanasana half forward fold. Step your left foot way back. Right knee tracks over the right ankle. And then inhale, reach your arms up. Actually, let's start with the hands on the hips. So now we're in Crescent Pose. The right knee should be tracking right over the right ankle. And then bend your left knee a good amount. And then do the same work with your hands on your pelvis. Fingertips forward, thumb back. Literally, so I'm overly doing it, but notice this might happen to you. This is like chilling in your low back. It's compressing your low back. So try to pull the frontal hip bones up and lengthen the tailbone down. And if bending the left knee more is what you need to do to get that, do that. Right knee right over the ankle. Great. And then you can keep your hands on your hips or the arms could lift up. Either way is fine. But can you move your left leg a little straighter and stronger as you continue driving your tailbone to the floor? Tailbone down, left leg towards straight. One more breath. Maybe feel a little back bend of your upper back as you continue lengthening your low back. And then exhale, release your hands down. Step back, find plank pose. Inhale, plank pose. Lean forward, tap your knees down. Exhale, chaturanga, bend the elbow straight back as you lower down. Okay, so just look back at your hands and make sure that, actually, let's do a little bit of this work first. Let's reach the arms straight back behind you, palms facing one another, fingertips reaching straight back. And first and foremost, before we do too much work, have your feet hip distance apart, ground down through all 10 toenails, and then hug your outer ankles in. There's no like splaying of the ankles out, which will be weird for your low back. Hug the outer ankles in, ground down through all 10 toes, and engage your legs so much your kneecaps lift. And then actively reach your tailbone towards your heels. So it's that kind of the cat spine in your low back. So the low back is actively reaching away from your shoulders. The core muscles are working. The frontal hip bones are pulling to the ribs as you reach your chest forward and up and your hands back and up. So again, can you lengthen your low back as you find the back bend in your upper back? So this is waking up all the muscles along the back body, which is great. You have one more breath. Your hands are reaching back and up. Actually look down towards the floor once you figure out the pose and lengthen the back of your neck. So no like weird cocking into the neck. You want to lengthen the back of your neck and then lower yourself down. You could rest onto one cheek or your chin or your forehead and pause for a moment. Okay. Doing that again, reach your arms back behind you, reach your chest forward and up. This time lift your legs off of the floor a couple of inches. And it's not about how high you can get away from the floor. It's more about how long can you get from your toes to the tippity top crown of your head. Inner thighs, spiral them up to the ceiling. That'll help open your low back. Outer ankles, outer hips wrap towards the floor. It's a tiny adjustment, but it's quite important. And then continue lengthening your low back as you feel the back bend in your upper back. Then lower yourself down and rest onto the opposite cheek. Bring your palms next to your low ribs. Have your hands truly right next to your low rib cage. So the wrists are pretty much stacking underneath your elbows. And then engage your legs. Lengthen your low back, just like we've been doing. And then inhale, pull your chest forward and up. This is our Cobra Pose. Little back bend in the upper back, low back is long. And then exhale, downward facing dog. You might need to adjust your hands, moving your palms forward and then lifting your hips up and back. And just stay for a long inhale. Full exhale, stretching your back body long. Okay, left leg lifts, inhaling. Exhale, step your left foot where your left thumb is and tap the right knee down. Inhale, just bring the hands to the hips and then shift your weight away from the left knee to start off with. With your hands on your hips, literally pull the frontal hip bones up and lengthen your tailbone down. So you might feel like you're overly doing it, but really try to do that. Lengthen your low back, okay? And then bend your front knee, but can you keep the lengthening of your low back down and the pulling of your frontal hip bones up towards your ribs? You'll hopefully be feeling a deeper experience in the front of the right thigh, which is great. And then if you feel supported, you could reach your arms up to the ceiling or hands could stay on the hips. Either way is fine. Pull your legs towards one another so your legs are active and they're helping you stay supported. And then as you lengthen your low back, can you find a little back bend of the upper back? Push your shoulder blades into your chest. Lift your chest forward and up. Then lower your hands to the floor. Step your right foot forward. Feet are hip distance apart as you fold over your legs. Bend the knees a lot. Hang upside down for a moment. Maybe a gentle little sway. And then interlace the fingers behind your low back, left thumb on top, or you're grabbing hold of your strap or your towel or whatever you've got. And then little micro bend of the elbow, shrug your shoulders away from your ears, a little bit more weight towards your toes, breathing into the back body. Slowly release your hands. Inhale, come up halfway. Bend the knees, come on up. Stay for the exhale. Roll the shoulders down your back. Can you feel a little back bend of your upper back here? One more inhale. Lengthen through the tippity top crown of your head. And then exhale, fold over your legs and step your right foot way back. So back that the left knee is truly over your ankle. And then inhale, lift yourself on up into this kind of crescent pose shape. So hands will be on the hips. You'll bend the right knee a good amount and just make sure the left knee is truly over your ankle. As you bend the right knee, so I'm overly doing it right now, right? We don't want the tailbone to flare back. We want the tailbone to move down towards the floor, like it's anchored to the floor. We want to pull the frontal hip bones up like they're being buoyed up towards the ceiling. We are the ship. Okay, and then so the tailbone down, the frontal hip bones up, and then maybe you begin to move your right leg a little bit straighter. Notice the work that has to happen, which is good. We're waking up all those little muscles. We're not just like hanging out in the body. We're working the body in all directions. Tailbone down, frontal hip bones up. Maybe move your right leg a little bit straighter and stronger, and maybe you don't, which is fine. You know, this is pretty intense for the front right thigh. Keep your low back long, 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 the frontal hip bones lifting. Maybe the arms lift up. Maybe you find a little back bend in your upper back, and then release your hands to the floor. Step back, Plank pose, inhaling, lean forward, tap your knees down. Exhale, modified chaturanga, lean forward as you bend your elbows and lower down. Okay. So move your hands wide, finger pads on the floor, elbows up. We're just trying to open the upper back a little bit more, prepping ourselves for an upward facing dog. So the feet are hip distance apart, right? Like we've been doing. Ground down through all 10 toes. Gently hug the outer ankles in. Keep your legs really strong. Inner thighs down. Tailbone to the heels, right? So all these little details to ultimately find more support in your body. All very, very important, even though they're tiny details. And then press down through your finger pads. Roll the shoulders down your back. Open your chest. The height is up to you. And then exhale, lower yourself down. 2 more. Inhale, press down. Roll yourself up. Shrug your shoulder blades down your back and then push them into your chest. And then exhale, lower yourself down. Once more. Inhale, press down and roll yourself up. Exhale, roll yourself down. Cool. So this time, I'm going to offer either a higher cobra, and if that feels good, you'll either stay there, or some of you might move into full upward facing dog, which is, I will say, it's a big back bend. So it might not be for you, which is fine, right? Listen to your body. Your hands are next to the low ribs like we did in that low cobra earlier. Same work. Ground down through 10 toes. Outer ankles, hug them in. Legs are super strong. Tailbone is reaching towards the heels, maybe even towards the floor a little bit. So you're truly lengthening your low back, and you have a little awareness of the lower abdomen happening. The core muscles are working. And then inhale, pull your chest forward and up, and you can actually press down through your palms down. And this is your kind of higher cobra. Your legs are on the ground. There's a little bend of the elbows. You're pulling your chest forward and up. Some of you will stay right here. Others will actually straighten your arms and then lift your legs off of the mat because you're pressing through the tops of your feet so much. But it's the same work we've been doing. Roll the shoulders down your back. Your inner elbows are spiraling forward like down dog. Pull the chest forward and up more and more and more, and then downward facing dog. Woo! And then hang out in downward facing dog. You might need to adjust your feet and your hands, lifting the hips up and back. Heels are moving in the direction of the floor. Nice work. Tap your knees down. Child's pose just for a moment. Hands could be forward or back, whatever feels nice in your body. And then we're going to lift ourselves on up onto our shins. And grab hold of your 2 blocks, and you're going to move your 2 blocks right outside of your ankles. If you don't have 2 blocks, you're going to tuck your toes under like this. And either way, you could actually even keep the toes tucked. They're pretty much the same height of the blocks, but the blocks might just feel more supportive. Okay, so have the knees hip distance apart. Your feet are hip distance apart. Hands on your hips like we've been doing. So this is called Camel Pose. And again, there's variations where it can be quite intense and quite deep, but we'll just do 1 or 2 variations that aren't so intense, but you can always stop at the first variation for sure. With your hands on your hips, so the same work we've been doing, fingertips forward, thumb back. So notice, none of this. Pull the frontal hip bones up, the buoys. Reach your tailbone down, the anchor. And then can you remember hugging the block between your inner thighs that we were doing when we were rolling up and rolling down on our backs? Do that. So there's a gentle hugging in, and the spiraling of the inner thighs are rolling back. So inner thighs roll back, tailbone down. Okay. Hug your elbows towards one another. And then like as if there's like a little string around your sternum, it's pulling your sternum gently up towards the ceiling. So your sternum, your center chest is reaching up to the ceiling. The tailbone is reaching down. Your hands are helping you. Tailbone down, frontal hip bones up. Hug the elbows towards one another. And then notice how your core muscles have to work here, which is great. The gaze could be forward or up. Either way is fine. Hug your elbows towards one another. Lift your chest up, lean back, and then come back through center. And then bend your knees. You can uncurl your toes for a moment and just sit on your heels and just pause. So I'm going to offer one more variation of that, which is your hands will end up either on those highest heights of blocks or on your actual heels with your toes tucked under. But if that variation already felt like a lot, then do that variation again. Really good to strengthen the spine, to open your front body, but also notice how you're waking up your core muscles in that. Okay, come back up. Knees are hip distance. Feet are hip distance. Tuck the toes. If you're using blocks, you've got the blocks. If you're not using blocks, that's totally fine. The toes are tucked. Okay, so pretend that imaginary block is between your inner thighs. Wrap it back. Tailbone down. Frontal hip bones up. Hug the elbows towards one another. Kind of like that cobra, right? Hug the elbows towards one another and lift your sternum, your center chest up, 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 up. Lift up, lift up, lift up, lift up, lift up, up. And then maybe you stay, maybe your hands get onto the blocks. I like finger pads for more space, or palms could be on the blocks, or your heels. But whatever you're in, lift your chest to the ceiling more, 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 more. So push your shoulder blades into your chest. Tailbone lengthens down, 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 down. One more breath here. And then from your core, lift yourself back up through center. Release the tucking of the toes. Lower your hips onto your heels and just take a moment to pause sitting on your shins. Maybe close your eyes. Notice how you feel. Nice. Okay. So we're going to swivel our legs forward now and roll onto our backs. Have your props nearby in case you need them. Rolling onto our backs. And then bend your knees and bring the soles of your feet to the floor. So remember what we did in the beginning of the practice when we were kind of setting up like this. So you want your heels quite close to your hips. Let's actually do the same thing of the block between the inner thighs like we did earlier. It's just such a good way of keeping your legs in check, right? Sometimes when we can't see some of our body, it's just like doing whatever it wants to. So really being mindful of keeping the knees in alignment with the hips, which is going to keep the space in your low back. The feet are hip distance, the toes are a little in, the heels are a little out. And then you'll press down through your feet and lift your hips tall in bridge pose. We did this earlier, but now we're going to stay and hang out in it. An option is to bend the elbows, little robot hands or robot arms. And then you're like literally pushing down through your elbows to lift your chest higher. That's a great option. Another option is to interlace your fingers underneath you like we did in our forward folds. And then for that, you'd wrap your outer upper arms underneath you and spiral your inner upper arms up to the ceiling. Either way, we're trying to push the shoulder blades into the chest and really find a nice big back bend in your upper back. Like just like where we started, right? On the block or with the blanket, whatever you had. But the shoulder blades are pushing into the chest. The tailbone is lengthening towards the block. Hug the knees in. One more breath. And then release the bind of your arms if you've got that or whatever you've got. And then roll your spine down and just pause for a moment. Whew, notice how you feel. Can be a lot, but it's good. Hopefully you're feeling kind of rejuvenated from this work, from the expansion of the lungs, from the big back bends of the upper back, the shoulder stretch, the chest opener. Okay, one more of those. Heels are close to the hips, knees tracking over the ankles. We're hugging the block. And then press your feet down, lift your hips up. And again, you can do your robot arms. Push your elbows down to lift your shoulder blades up. Option to interlace the fingers underneath you. Opposite thumb on top when we're rolling to the outer upper arms, lifting the hips and lengthening the tailbone down, but still hugging the block between the inner thighs. And then we're here for 2 more breaths wherever you are. Feeling a nice back bend in the upper back. Woo. And then release the bind and slowly lower yourself down. You'll move the block from the inner thighs to the side. Move your feet a little wider. Allow your knees to knock in towards one another. And just pause for a moment. So there are some other deeper back bends that you can explore later in your practice. I'm just doing back bends that are still suitable for those of you who are newer to the practice. And these are like the building blocks, right? This is how you safely move into back bends. And then once you continue practicing, you can continue to evolve and continue to grow in your practice and in your body. Just be really mindful of what the body is telling you. I've been practicing for a while, and I've definitely aggravated my low back from just cranking into back bend. So being really mindful of how you're feeling in your body and really allowing sensations of your body to be your biggest teacher. Okay, so do a little windshield wiper action of your shins from side to side. And there's also like no rush, right? I know it's like we'll want to get into these like big, crazy, fancy poses, but it's really not about the aesthetic of the pose. It's really about like the sensations of the body from the pose, right? So being really mindful of all the poses you're exploring. Can be quite fun though, just as long as you're mindful. It's really the aim of the practice. Okay, I'm done with my spiel. Go ahead and hug your knees into your chest. Let it rock from side to side. So teeny bit of core work here because we did just do a lot of back bends. So the core work is that kind of counter pose of the back bend. So interlace the fingers around your right knee, but keep the left knee where it is. And then bring your nose to your right knee, and then slow motion extend your left leg forward in space and flex through both of your feet. And then reach your arms forward in space, but try to keep your nose connected to your knee. Think about the tailbone curling up towards the ceiling, which is pretty rare that I would say that in a practice, but for core work, it's quite good. So really get into the deeper core muscles, so we're releasing the low back. One more breath. Keep the shape, but lower yourself down. So lower your left leg down straight, lower your shoulders in your head. And then we're going to move into a twist. You're going to pull the right knee across your body to the left. And I would recommend pushing your hips to the right an inch or two, and then pulling the right leg over to the left. It just gives you way more space in the twist. I'd really recommend it. Left toes are now pointing to the left versus the ceiling. And then revolve your chest open to the right with your right shoulder grounding. So a nice neutralizer also is twists. Twists are always really, really great after back bending. It creates space in the spine. It lets go of any sort of tension, compression. It's a nice equalizer. We're here for a couple of breaths in your twist. So just now, from all the work we've done, try to soften now. Try to relax a little bit more into the shape. Come back to your breath. Notice if you've lost it. Use it to find more space to soften. All right, we're going to come back through center. Sneak your hips to the left if you've moved them to the right. Hug both of your knees into the chest just gently. You can do a little rock from side to side. Interlace the fingers around your left knee. Bring your nose to your left knee. Extend your right leg forward in space. Flex through both of your feet. Reach your arms forward in space. Try to keep the connection of your nose to your knee. Curl the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Round, 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 round in your back body. One more breath. And then keep the shape, but lower yourself down. I'd recommend pushing your hips to the left and then keeping the right leg straight, pulling your left knee across your body to the right. And then revolving your chest open to the left. And then maybe closing the eyes if you're comfortable with it. Long, deep breaths to soften. And then you'll slowly come back through center. Maybe you have to sway the hips back to center. Hug your knees into your chest. You're going to move your legs towards straight. And if you've got the strap, you're going to wrap the strap around your feet like this. If you don't have a strap, you're going to wrap your palms to your calves like this. So either way, palms to calves, you're moving your legs towards straight and gently pulling your legs towards you, just in that general area. You do not have to be super close to your body. Or strap around your feet, you're gently pulling your legs towards you. So either way, we're just coming into a reclined forward fold. You're moving your legs towards straight, but they don't have to be totally straight. That's totally fine. You could be a little bend of the knees, that's fine. The hips might lift, that's fine. The hips could stay grounded, that's fine. You just want to give yourself one last nice forward fold. Keep the flexion of your feet though, that's going to help you really stretch into your back body. One more breath, moving your legs towards straight in that general direction. Great. Release that. Hug your knees into your chest, bring your nose to your knees, curl yourself into a tiny little ball, and then release your legs long onto the mat for your final resting pose, Shavasana. Allowing the feet to splay open, the arms to be on either side of you, your palms facing up. You could again lift your hips a little bit, lengthen your tailbone forward, and then lower your hips back down. That might feel nice, especially from back bending, which is something you can always do in Shavasana if that feels nice for you. And then just close your eyes and give yourself one last deep inhale. Low abdomen, low lungs, mid lungs, upper chest. Sip in a little bit more. Open your mouth, exhale, sigh it out of the mouth, all the air out. And then no more breath control, just let the breath be. And take this moment to observe how you feel. So again, back bends are rejuvenating, they give us energy. And they also help to alleviate stress and tension in the spine, in the neck, in the shoulders. And just observing how you feel from the practice. Physically, energetically, emotionally, mentally. And you can stay here asking in the sensations of the practice as long as you'd like. I'd recommend at least a couple more minutes. And thank you for practicing. Namaste.